Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer, joined by Mike Gallagher. We've got all the news, notes, and information to get you ready for this 4-game NBA slate. Once again, this schedule this week is just crazy. 12-game slate on Wednesday, 12-game slate on Friday, 1-game slate on Thursday. So just kind of getting ahead of things here. We're not going to do a show on Thursday just for the one game. It would basically be us coming on air for 2 to 3 minutes. Don't think it's worth kind of the time and the effort. So we will have a longer show most likely on Wednesday and a longer show most likely on Friday to cover all those games and make sure we have them covered for you, but we will not be here Thursday. With that in mind, we're here Tuesday, 4 games. Mm-hmm. How are you doing on this fine Tuesday afternoon, Mike?
Great. Yeah, did a good start on matchups for the big slate tomorrow. Got my hike in early today and trying to do that every day. So yeah, feeling fabulous today.
Nice. All right, well, let's get into it. The big injury news on this slate is in that first game, Memphis. It's actually a cool slate in terms of if you want to play it from a DFS perspective. It's not one that you have to be at your computer all night because 2 games at 7 o'clock Eastern, 1 game at 7:30 Eastern, and 1 game at 8 o'clock Eastern, and then you're done. Yep. So the big injury news spot is Ja Morant is doubtful for Memphis. Unfortunately, we've seen Memphis play a decent bit without Ja this year, about 13 games or so. 13, 14 games, something like that Ja has missed this year. They're getting an extremely favorable matchup against Indiana, who's just totally fallen apart defensively since trading Domantas Sabonis, since losing Miles Turner for the season, and so on and so forth. With Memphis trying to replace Ja, it's always been Tyus Jones, but who else potentially benefits here for Memphis?
Yeah, Tyus Jones is the easy part, but I said I was feeling fabulous. You know who else is probably feeling fabulous today? Dylan Brooks, because he's going to get a ton of shots against a really, really crappy defense. So he'll definitely pick up some shots. I think they're going to play a little bit bigger, right? So they play Dylan at the 2-3 sometimes, mostly 3, but when they need to, they play him at the 2. So I think that's kind of an option to play. Zaire could still pick up some run. Obviously, just to be clear, Tyus is for sure starting. It's going to be Tyus, Bane, Brooks, JJJ, Funaki, but just talk about how the rotations go through the game. I think it'll be a little bit bigger because we're going to see a lot of Dylan Brooks. He's in a guard. We'll talk about the Indy side. Probably Brogdon if Brogdon plays, but then he'll guard Halliburton if Brogdon doesn't play. So that's a whole other thing we'll talk about in a second. But so I think it kind of obviously Melton would benefit next. And then, I don't think so. Contra was getting some run like kind of earlier, but now that Brooks is back, I think he's kind of affected where he may not get like a good amount of run behind the backup point guard spot. So maybe more of like a Melton straight behind him, especially with all that perimeter attack coming from the Pacers if Brogdon plays. So it's kind of unclear, honestly. Like the Brogdon thing kind of looms large on how I think Taylor Jenkins is going to approach his second unit and rotations for his guards.
Yeah, and on the Indiana side, as you alluded to, Malcolm Brogdon is questionable, but so are Lance Stevenson, Chris Duarte, and Goga Batadze. So a lot of moving parts here potentially for Indiana. We've seen Indiana's questionable tags, especially when related to Malcolm Brogdon, have been pretty frustrating all season long in terms of just like listing him when he's very far away. So these times where, he re-injures stuff, you never really know. You never really know until you get like a week into it and you're like, oh, okay, they were being very, very aggressive in terms of the listing. What are your thoughts on if we see Brogdon tonight? Same with Duarte and Lance, because, if you take those 3 wings out somehow, you can see last game it was really, really condensed in terms of the minutes, specifically for Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Dwayne Washington.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was a back-to-back game. I think that's a big, big part of the reason why all those guys missed. Duarte's been playing through this toe thing for over a month now. We saw him before the break get hurt, and he's been not the same since. Goga, kind of same thing, been managed. I think he'll be in there. Lance, kind of same thing. Ankle he tweaked like about a week and a half ago or so. He's been kind of in and out, mostly out. So I think they mostly got a chance to play. I wouldn't be surprised if they just sit Lance out if they have everybody in. Brogdon's tougher, right? So we don't really know like when it would happen, which is the indication that it's probably like a minor concussion symptom thing. So he got put in, I think, a couple days before their back-to-back weekend slate. I think it was like Thursday. So he's had, a good 5-6 days to clear what may have been a minor thing to clear in a day. So if he cleared it pretty quick, then he's got a chance to be out there. So maybe we find that out. It's the first game of the slate. So, yeah, like I said, it's going to affect a lot of stuff on both sides and how the Grizzlies are going to attack them defensively. So we'll maybe talk more about that on DFS show when we kind of have a clearer picture because it's kind of just muddled right now. But obviously, Halliburton could just kind of go off here. Definitely expect, if all these guys are sitting, which I think is highly unlikely, Dwayne Washington will play a bunch. Buddy Hield's going to play a bunch, which we know. And then if all the guys are playing, they're going to be playing a lot smaller. So we've seen them, make O'Shea, more of like a straight four, where they won't run more of the guards. They'll put like Jalen Smith straight behind. Goga might not even play if everyone's in there.
Yep.
So it all just kind of it's just so many iterations on how it could go down. But it'll be interesting to see when we find out. But I think there's a pretty good chance everyone plays.
The other big questionable tag on the slate is Cade Cunningham, who's really turned it on for Detroit over the last 10 to 15 games or so, just kind of, making a late charge, probably, one that won't really move the needle in terms of the rookie of the year standings, but making a late charge to prove that he was worthy of that number one pick. He's questionable tonight. Killian Hayes is back. Rodney McGruder is probable, while Frank Jackson and Hamidou Diallo are still out. What are your expectations for Cade tonight?
Yeah, I mean, makes sense he sits, right? That midday illness Q tag that's been pretty damning the last couple times. And we've seen even players like Christian Wood and like Jimmy Butler had it and almost missed the second game. Like guys miss multiple games, but sometimes they get that early Q tag. So I think he's like unlikely to play, which means probably Magruder season. They really like Rodney McGruder. And then also Corey Joseph, whose leash would have been cut with Killian back, is kind of back up. Especially without Hamidou Diallo and Frank Jackson. So they're a little short at guard. So definitely, and it's also worth noting Saban Lee is in the G League, so they don't have that piece. So I think there could be some pretty good minutes here for Kojo. Now, Killian has a contusion, so that's not like usually you see a groin injury and usually like panicking about like a long ramp up. But let's say it's contusion. I think he just got banged there. So I think he could be like back to somewhat normal. I don't think they're going to play in crazy minutes. But Isaiah Livers will probably still be in the rotation. He'll be more of like a 3 than a 2-3 than they were playing him there. So, Cade's Q tag is potentially a big deal and a terrible matchup against Miami.
Yeah, and a tricky thing is you remove Cade, and as you mentioned, they're thin on guards, so you're going to kind of have guard minutes projections elevated, and there would be huge blowout risk. So you'd be kind of at the mercy of whether Detroit could keep this game competitive or at the mercy of what those blowout rotations look like. Do you have any speculation on what kind of a extreme blowout situation without Cade Cunningham in the lineup might look like tonight? Would Corey Joseph still be in those situations? So
definitely not.
What do you think the clear 5 in a blowout situation would be like?
Let's see. So I'm trying to see who they have. If they have
probably Isaiah Livers would be a guess.
Yeah, Livers would for sure get it. So Saban's. I think Killian would still get it. They don't have Pickett, so he obviously wouldn't get it. So it would be Garza was on that list,
probably.
Right? Yeah, Garza's still on G League. Okay, so this is interesting. So it would be, I think, for sure Killian, for sure Livers. Boy, I guess Magruder for sure.
Yeah.
So then, man, they're short, man. Maybe Bagley would probably get it. Well, actually, we should add Isaiah Stewart. Is off the injury report too, so that's another thing. So Bagley would definitely get it. So they've got some more front court depth. So they may play Bagley as more of a a straight 4. So that's another thing I kind of left out there. But so Bagley would get it though. But obviously he's a little dicey now with Stewart back.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot to keep an eye on because Cade's been carrying so much load, both offensively in terms of possession usage and also in terms of minutes as well. Other injury notes to keep an eye on tonight. Brooklyn, we got the very last minute Seth Curry add to the injury report on Sunday, I believe it was, on the early game. And now he's questionable along with Cam Thomas tonight. They're in Orlando, relatively soft landing spot for a Brooklyn team that's been playing well. They're on the road, which means they have Kyrie Irving available to them. What are your thoughts on the availability for Seth Curry and or Cam Thomas tonight and how it impacts things?
So Seth Curry hurt his ankle like about a week and a half ago. Wasn't a big deal. Was listed probable. Was playing through it, and then all of a sudden didn't play 6 minutes after lock time, which sucked. But Steve Nash sounded encouraged. They said it was kind of like a late situation where they don't want to sit him. I think it's a back-to-back factor. So maybe he sits today, plays tomorrow, something along those lines. So he's going to be game time. We found that already. So Patty Mills would start if he can't go. I don't really have a lot of clarity on it just because, it's always discouraging when a guy warms up expecting to play and gets pulled out. Patty Mills would start. And then if Cam can't go, if they both can't go, then you're looking at, a bigger lineup. They're going to probably play more James Johnson at the 3. We saw them use that a little bit more in the last game against the bigger Knicks. So that will be a rotation wrinkle. Maybe a little bit Claxton at the 4. If they're missing both, they would be a little short there. Maybe Kessler Edwards gets in the mix. They're off the board. But maybe more Dragic too, obviously with Kyrie back. But it's not really a big situation to attack. Patty Mills is just so bad. So I think it would be you're not going to James Johnson. It would just really add more ceiling to like Bruce Brown. Maybe you play Patty Mills, he doesn't suck. And then maybe Drummond's like a little bit more appealing if they are going to play Claxton, because the matchup's an important note, right? Like they're going up against the Magic, so there's a lot of big lineups out there that they can run out there. So I think that it like low key helps Drummond and Claxton a little bit.
Yeah, and why don't you talk about the Magic while I get assaulted by the sirens here? Jalen Sugg is out for the Magic, and how does that impact things for them tonight?
Yeah, so also one thing we were trying to figure out, we talked about this in the last time we talked Magic, is we were trying to figure out what this 10th rotation spot is. And we got a really big hint with this news. And because they were kind of alternating Ross and Harris. And so it would have been Harris's turn to sit today. He got the Q tag. So I saw that. I was like, okay, great. We got this pattern figured out. Now Suggs gets ruled out. And then not coincidentally, Harris gets ruled in. So I think we got this figured out how they're going to rotate in. So we're going to have both Harris and Ross in the mix. They're going to fill the wing minutes. I also have Markelle Fultz in the mix for this one. So I expect him and RJ Hampton, who is going to start, to split those point guard minutes, probably about 28-20 or so. Edge to Hampton, obviously, with Fultz having the minutes cap. Gary Harris will get the non-Coles, maybe a couple more. Do have garbage time to worry about. Hampton would probably get that. So that's another kind of feather in his cap for more playing time. And Wagner would be backed up by Terrence Ross, maybe a little bit of overlap. Those guys aren't really on the board, but it takes a little bit of upside off those guys. But we'll see what's up. And it's also like low key good for Mo Bamba, with missing depth, and they're already at 10, so they can't really like shake things up too much. But we've seen Gary Harris kind of cut him down, so wouldn't say it's like a smash up for Bamba, but good.
They have so many different ways that they can play, and especially with the second unit playing a little bit better of late with Fultz and Mo Wagner and Chuma Keki playing well. We've seen them kind of run with that second unit at times, so it's been very tough to find consistent DFS value on Orlando. And obviously, we've seen Brooklyn can play very high scoring games. They can also clamp down defensively like they did against Philadelphia the other night. So it's a tough spot to try to pick apart, even with Sugg's absence. Usually that's been a good thing for Cole Anthony, but the emergence of Markelle Fultz has really kind of capped the ceiling on Cole Anthony's minutes. He did get up to 37 last game, but that was overtime related. So it was only 32 in regulation. He's been kind of stuck between 28 to 32, 33 in regulation since Fultz has kind of been back in the mix. So even with Suggs out, there's still a lot of pieces that they have here. The one thing that could happen is if they let Cole Anthony really go, it could come at the expense of like Gary Harris, Terrence Ross, those types of minutes. I don't know if they'll do it though. Like they have the opportunity to do it now, but they haven't been doing it of late. So that's the one question mark for me with Orlando tonight.
I'll add matchups wise. It's going to be Bruce Brown getting Cole and Kyrie will guard RJ Hampton. So RJ Hampton could be in a good matchup spot there. Just something to think about.
Yeah. All right. Other injury notes. Jimmy Butler expected back, not on the injury report for Miami tonight. He's been in and out of the lineup as we've seen of late. And CJ McCollum is back. Health and safety protocols quickly cleared, so that was good to see. And he is in a big usage spot tonight, obviously in the absence of Brandon Ingram. Probably going to get a lot of Mikal Bridges, so not the cleanest spot for CJ, but certainly a huge opportunity set for him. Any other thoughts you want to add on Miami or New Orleans tonight?
Yeah, so we saw CJ light up the Suns. Got the Suns screen here. Put up 32, but Ingram had a good game too. Ingram was the one who got the Mikal matchup. Now it's for sure going to be Mikal on CJ. So I don't like to lean into many Mikal matchups, so I'm not going to be doing any CJ ladders today. So probably out, and then his return will certainly be affecting Trey Murphy slightly. We'll see how this affects. So it's also worth noting too, because when he got pulled out, they pulled Tony Snow out and put Najee Marshall in. I think Marshall did enough to kind of keep his job, so he's probably starting again. But I don't think they would go back to it. I think that they really need, especially against the Suns, you don't want a freaking Tony Snow out there. You need somebody with at least some on-ball capability like Marshall has. So I think Marshall still starts. Trey Murphy behind him, and obviously Herb's going to be doing Herb things, guarding Booker. So it should be pretty interesting game. I think the Suns have a pretty big advantage here, just because they are really good at taking a one-headed monster offense away from teams with Mikal. So I think the Suns have a pretty big advantage here. I actually took them -4.5 last night.
Agree with you on Najee Marshall, more likely to start than Tony Snell. I think Tony Snell is there when they have two ball handler playmaker types, not when they have just one. I think it's too limiting offensively. So with that said, I think we've said it all for this 4-game slate. Hopefully got you prepared. Mike and I will be back behind the paywall at EstablisherRun.com with our NBA DFS premium show today, Established a Show, at 5 p.m. Eastern time. We'll also be back again tomorrow for a monster slate, 12 games. We'll be here at 2 o'clock Eastern, breaking it all down. Best of luck in all the games. Enjoy the basketball tonight, the small slate. And we'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.